And so whenever you look at comps like this, especially when there's no artillery, you want to look at the makeups. And your team is a little bit lighter, right? You've got more mediums, less heavies, which typically and less tank destroyers, which typically means that like this side is going to be more difficult for your guys to play. But that also means that if you play through the field, one of the things that you want to do is go through this area with your faster tanks, like something the Wheezy 131 could do, even really like the 140 could do it as well. The Leo 1 could, but it's a little fragile, so I don't know that you would necessarily want to do it. There's some actual places down there over here where you could like hold down if you're like that 140, for example. And you want to see what your team is doing. Oh, and you're in a platoon with the CDC. Okay. And I guess you're not connected. Yep, there you go. 45 seconds into the game. And see how you have a rather large concentration out here. So like when you see this distribution, this is actually good for what your team wants, right? Because your team can't really trade that well with them over here. You set a high concentration in your tanks over here. And so these guys need to be able to win on this side. Well, this is not a good start. That this tower is not a good opponent. Or I guess maybe he was too good of an opponent. It looks like they're pushing across the middle, and so again, this is perfect for your team, right? Because if you guys can clear this out, this area right here is really vulnerable to being shot from the field. So you don't want to do what these guys are doing if you don't control the field. Their advantage is to play through this side right there, right? Theoretically. Instead, they're getting toasted by trying to push through, you know, be cute to push through this middle here. But your team still hasn't cleared out this one tank, this one single guy that they're now swarming. And so they're starting to push up underneath you here, which is predictable, right? Because that's where their strength lies. And so you want to get off of this side. Right? And your guys have finally cleared this out now. But now what they really need to do is just all they need to do is come back here, right? And give this E100 fire support over here. Make sure that this waffle has support over here. Like, you don't need to push into cap, right? You don't need to clear out their arty because there's no arty. So what you want to be able to do is get over on this, either this A line or this C line or anywhere where it's not just real easy for them to push up here against this E100. Unfortunately, your team is pushing in through the south. And so see, like when you look at this, right, you see basically your team is going clockwise around here, and their team is also going clockwise around on this side. And so what you always have to ask yourself is that who's going to win this, right? Who's going to win this if you guys keep going like this? And they've got heavies much closer to your cap. You could theoretically cap out, but you know they don't really need a whole lot to stop you there. And so this isn't a bad position, but like where this 30B is a better position, you could even be, I don't know that I would necessarily be on the A line yet. You're going to need somebody on the A line eventually, but like you need to be able to keep these guys from pushing through this D line. The STA has horrible gun depression over the back of the tank, so you have to be, you ideally want to find it. And then like see how they sent half of their team back? That's perfect. That's all they needed to do, right? Because they're going to be able to crush here just because you're not going to have enough to be able to compete with them. But that's what you want to see. You want to see them split, and then you want to crush their guys here. Ideally speaking. Instead, what's going to happen is the opposite. And you want to avoid pushing into this middle here, because once your guys get crushed here, they're going to come up through this side, right? And it's going to be more of a problem there. Yeah, that was a hope shot on that IS-4. That was not going to go through. And you want to avoid playing this middle area here because you're basically just going to get shot from both sides. So you guys now have shrinking map control, which is never a good thing. That's a good shot, if it went a little higher. Theoretically, anyways. See this IS-4 is pushing down the field, you got to keep an eye on that. You always want to look at the where the closest guy is. Like, you're fixating a little bit too much on this IS-3, whereas this IS-4, like, if you guys can, right, there's one guy that's ISO'd here. If you've got 5 guys, right, within, 125 meters of this guy, the next closest friendly that he has, these 2 guys back here, right? The M103 can't even get supporting fire on the IS-4. The 268 has a very narrow window which he can. Whenever you see ISOs like that, your team has to punish. It's the same thing with that E50, the single E50 that's right there. You can't let one guy hold up 6 or 7. You just can't. And then see how... Okay, having your guy on the back is fine. Pushing up this side is not really helping. You want to go around the front with the 30B. Ideally speaking anyways. And you want to be careful because you're pushing into an area where you can get shot by that 268. He's being occupied right now, but it's something that you want to keep an eye on. Shoot him through the drive wheel. Any of the drive wheels? There you go, that's fine. Unfortunately, you still got a lot of guys hiding in this field area. Shoot him in the drive wheel. He fired, he got shot. Oh, look, your Nemesis IS-3 is back. Well, that's good, that guy got down. Hopefully you guys can get the IS-3 down. E100's coming around the back, so that's something you're going to keep an eye on. You can get an early shot to occupy him. It's good. Unfortunately, I don't think you're going to be able to save your boy, who's not paying attention anyways. Just sit there and get maximum DPM. Unfortunately, your guys in the field, they're still a little bit too campalicious. Lol, the double fires. Oh man, that guy didn't keep the IS-3. And so if you're in a retreating position like this, you want to set up someplace where you can catch them on the way in. You don't want to be in a position where they come around the hill and you guys spot each other and you're like, oh, well, we've both had the same shot. Now it's just a little bit too late to try to save these guys anyways. I think you're better off trying to take the 2.8s down here. If the Action X can possibly get to the back of the 183, then that's a thing, but otherwise I don't see how you're going to save him. And so what you really want to be able to do is you wanted to be able to spot these guys as they were coming in through here and get an early shot on them before they came through that side. I wouldn't occupy myself as much, nearly as much with the 183. See, like that's, you should have aimed that one all the way in. But this is the free damage shot that you wanted to get there. That one was fine to snap because he was already targeting you. And you want to start moving away from the 183. You're going to have to engage one or the other. Or actually, you could push towards the 183 if you want it. I mean, you're going to have to do one or the other, though. Just take a chance that he misses. He's not very accurate. Oh. What you don't want to do is get yourself in a position where you're fighting 3 tanks at once, right? You need to get your free damages. I would actually push away from the Lova. So what you want to avoid, right? You want to avoid close confrontation fights right now. I would still try to bail out that way. Because the Luva is going to be like right in front of you. Presumably, someplace. Oh, he's on that side. See, even better, even more reason to bail out that way. Like, what you really want to avoid is this close confrontation type of fight right now. You need distance is your friend when you're the one that's down health. Even though you're snapshotting him like a boss now. Like, you need to create distance because that FE183 is driving in as well. It would be one thing if like the Luva was one shot. See if you can hit a track. Oh, he did hit the track, but it didn't actually. Oh well. Yeah, so anyways, other than loading in late and then driving into the pole, which wasn't so great, I think most of this was a problem of dispersion. Your team actually split up pretty well, but then you had like 6 or 7 medium tanks over here, and they were just stone cold scared, just straight scared of a single guy there. One guy stopped 6 or 7. And that really, really killed your team because their team was brave enough and even stupid enough to drive through this middle here and actually put pressure up through this D4 area here, which is good. That's what they needed to do because that's what their team comp dictated. They had more heavies, they had more tank destroyers. They needed to take this route here to have an advantage, and they did. Right? But your team didn't hold up your end of the bargain, right? You had the faster tanks, you had more mobility, there were less of their enemies in the field, but you guys didn't clear it, just didn't do it. And then once you did finally do it, right, you waited until your team died, and then once your team finally did it, what you needed to do was just come back, right? Come back and make sure that you can deal with these guys over here. You know, maybe you can keep that E100 alive, maybe you can keep that Waffle alive, but you can't continue on like that. If you're going to be scared to push that guy, come back and help your team. And then after that, it was them really just pushing a little bit foolishly. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is just, you know, when you have that situation where you need to get a lot of free damage, you want to spot them crossing across these open areas. You want to set up so you can spot them, like that IS-3 crossing here, so you can get that early shot on him to kill him here. And the same thing with the Luba. You want to see if you can spot him crossing across here or over here or wherever it's going to be, because you know that he has to cross in order to get to you. If he goes and puts cap pressure on, well, there's nothing you can do about that, right? You can go over there and you can try to vision game him. But if they're pursuing you, you want to be set up where you have an alley where you can see where you have control of. Like, you know, even in that where you ended up killing the IS-3 from, you know, sitting in that little ditch, right, looking out over here, getting ready to get your free shot of damage. That's what really needed to happen there. Because if you could have possibly cleared out this north side, then you have an actual chance at the FE183. Oops, that's not the right text. That's the right text. So if you look at the stats, neither team did exceptionally well or exceptionally horribly. I think you guys had a chance. You just needed to be braver in the field. Not bad though. GG. Nice try. Alright, so the next one is CaptainKremen on Malinovka in a T29. It's Malinovka encounter. One smallish RD, so that's not too bad. So what's nice is that you can play this back ditch, start driving up here. You want to see what your heavies are going to do, but you want to be able to secure this hill. It's a very, very easy cap to defend, so you're not really super worried about that. Looks like most of your guys are going up here, so that's a good sign. And a lot of times you can bully in a tank like the T29 or a lot of the American tanks on this hill because of the different slopes. Either, you know, if they're down here, you can be hold down over here. If they're over here, you can be hold down over here. If they're back here, then you can hold down over here. So there's a lot of opportunities for American tanks on this map. And they're sending a Foch across, but that's not really that big of a deal. Not on encounter mode, anyways. And so you're gonna have this area secure, so you might want to consider coming down low over here. Like whenever I see this many guys going up to the windmill, you can only fit so many tanks back there. You might want to go onto this lower plateau here, or even just sit out over here so you can get shots down here at like the T71 and things like that. Because the top of the hill, right, this upper plateau is going to be relatively secure. And then the further south that you are here, the easier it is for you to get shot from areas like down here. So you want to be careful about that. And you don't need to back up too much. You're really just worried about artillery here. And that 4502B has a soft turret.
We didn't even scratch them.
So the artillery fired, so you have a window of about another 10 to 15 seconds.
Penetration.
You don't need to keep backing up so much when you know that artillery has fired. Just sit there, make sure that you're fully aimed, get your shots.
Moving slowly. Enemy armor is damaged.
And that's the thing where I said, like, if you're too far south here, right, they'll be able to get shots at you from down here. That's why these guys aren't getting shot at. But it's pretty borderline area where you're at here. They don't have a whole lot of window there. You're not really going to pen that 4502B unless you hit them in the turret. You're better off hitting that IS for now. Shoot the best available targets, and then you can worry about this guy.
That one didn't go through.
It's going to be difficult to snipe. Looks like they pushed a bunch of guys through field, which is good for you. You guys just need to try to clean this up.
We didn't even scratch them.
And you want to keep an eye on this Foch right here, because you can actually shoot him a bit from up here. You can hit the IS-3 just above the gun mantlet and the little pen.
Enemy armor is hit.
These guys are really struggling with this 4502B with the stock turret.
We didn't even scratch them.
So you still want to keep an eye on this down here. This 4502B won them the game just because your team didn't know how to kill him. These guys. And then you want to be careful pushing off this hill again. You can get shots into where that Foch is. They're not really super worried about that Foch pushing. But you got to be careful, like where this 112 is a good position for you to be at. See how their Foch is sitting there? And that's fine. So what you actually want to do is probably go back up the hill because they're starting to push out on that side. Like, one of the things that people do is like, why are you guys coming down here? Like, what is the purpose of driving down here? Like, you're not going to their cap. Their cap isn't over here. Their cap is over here. Right? What you need to try to do is try to keep these guys alive over on this side because you know that they're coming around clockwise. Like, this is almost the same thing as the Pilsen game. Everybody's driving in the same direction. And so what you don't want to do is drive straight out here. That's going to be a bad position because it's going to be really easy for you to get flanked. Yeah, you drove a long distance to get that shot. You might as well make it count. This is a much better way to shoot those guys. And he's boned. And you got plenty of time on the cap, so you're not super worried about it. So these guys are still pushing through on that side, which is okay. I mean, it's not fantastic. You might need to take a hit in order to kill this guy. You do want to kill this guy. You don't want to let him sit up underneath you. And then, this is the same thing as when you drove up here to shoot that PTA. You're driving up here to shoot this T-71. Why don't you just drive down here and just shoot him in the face?
Penetration.
And then what you probably want to do is start driving back this way so you can guard over here. Nobody picked up the arty, but again, it's not that big of a deal. Especially since he just drowned himself. You want to start guarding this area here. You no longer have the hill. You could theoretically go back up to the hill if you wanted.
Enemy armor is hit. Enemy armor is damaged.
Team's just dying a little bit too quickly now. Switch to that HE. The sweet HE. And so you can spot by going to exactly where you were shooting that Leo, right? You can spot to see if those guys are going to come across on you. You need to get a shot on this waffle without getting shot by a bunch of his teammates.
Penetration.
Oh man, if that was HE. Oh good, they did get him.
Enemy is hit.
And you want to just stay hold down on this guy. You actually probably just want to push the Centurion because he's ISO'd. The Pershing can't. You're not going to really have good shots on the Pershing. So I would just push the Centurion. See, what you don't want to do is wait for this guy to die over here. Because once he dies, then these guys can 2v1 you. You wanted to push this guy while he's ISO'd, while he doesn't get any support.
We didn't even scratch them.
See, now it's going to be more difficult for you to push him, although you still should.
We're immobilized. The loader bought the
Right?
farm.
So it's just 2v1, 2v1, 2v1.
Penetration.
You keep exposing yourself to this guy, but you're not really minimizing your damage from the Centurion. Focus on the Centurion. There's no reason for you to not focus on the Centurion. He's the ISO guy. He's the one-shot guy. The Pershing just left, so he can't cover you. You can still push the Centurion if you want it. Like, you still have an opportunity to do it.
They're knocked out.
Okay, and then now, it's much easier. It would have been easier if you still had some more health. But so now you need to establish what the Pershing was doing. He was headed south over here, which suggested that he was going to come around on this side. But you just need to spot him on one side or the other. And then just see if you get lit. And then ideally what you'd be able to do is come over into this area right here. Because what you don't want to do, again, this is the exact same thing as in the last game. Distance is your friend. If you guys are close, that's his advantage. He's got more health, he's a higher tier, better gun, etc. You want to make it so that you guys spot each other from as long a distance as possible, so that you have an opportunity to get a free shot. And so usually what that means is not staying exactly where he knows that you're at. It usually means moving someplace else, any place else. Even if it's straight away, you know, even if it's back here, right? That's a better choice than not moving anywhere at all. Because now it's a little too late. And again, one thing that you could have done is just moved up here and then peeked over here. So at least you know where he's at. He's over in this area. And again, you still have the advantage where you can just back out, drop light, and then back up over here. What you want to avoid doing is being in the same place and letting people stalk you.
Track fixed. Let's roll.
Now that you're one shot, you don't really have much of a chance to move anyplace. But you do need to try to see if you can spot him coming across. And he'll either just drive straight up underneath you, or he'll... Actually, that's probably all he really needs to do is just drive straight up underneath you. And so what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to spot him coming in from one side that you know that he's coming from. Alright. So anyways, you guys went hill, and that was good. You actually traded reasonably well there. Their 4502B owned your team just because your team was incapable of shooting them in the turret. And that's fine. But really, you still could have won this game. You had opportunities to win this game. The biggest thing that comes to mind is when people ISO themselves, you need to be able to crush ISOs. And it's really, really important. If you get in a situation where you're 1v2, that's not good for you, right? You need to be able to figure something out in order to minimize that. And so, like, when that Centurion pushed over here, you should have just pushed over here and just bullied him. You had more health at the time, and you should have been able to just wreck him. The Pershing wouldn't have been able to support him really. But the worst thing that could have possibly happened for you was for you to get shots on nothing, for you to be frozen, just straight frozen there. Like, you might as well have been AFK while your guy died over here, right? That's bad. Like, you don't want to wait, because once that guy dies, then it's a 1v2. And not only is it 1v2, but they're 1v2 and they're at 90-degree angles to you. That means one of them's going to get flanking shots, right? So you want to avoid that situation. Get as far away from that situation as possible. And especially if that person is gonna keep himself over here, if he's not going to move to support the Centurion, you need to crush that Centurion. But even then, the Centurion didn't play that super well, and you were able to get him down. So that's good. You lost some health though because of that, because you backed up too far. You got shot by the Persian, you got shot by the Centurion, so you got trickled down to I think it was like 400-ish health or something like that. But at least you were able to kill the Centurion. And then what you need to do is you need to not hang out in that position, especially when you know that Persian was headed west down here. Right, so you need to get out of this position, and wherever you go, right? I like this area over here. I think you could have gone over here. You could have even gone back here, right? This would have been the safe play, but you cannot stay there, because eventually he's going to be able to drive around someplace to get shots on you, right? There's a big open map, and so you don't want to let him dictate, the hunt. You want to be able to be in a different position where you can surprise him. Like, if you come down over here, right, you surprise him crossing over here when he comes across over here, and you get your free shots of damage on him from a hold down position, and you can potentially win that game. But you don't want to stay there. And again, this is the same situation as in the previous map. Distance is your friend. The closer that he is to you, if he's got more health, right, that's his advantage. If you've got lower health, you want to create that gap. And you want to be able to shoot at him coming across that gap. Because if you don't have that gap, then he's just going to drive straight into you and kill you. And there doesn't need to, like, for him, there didn't need to be any of that subterfuge. Once you were down to 400 health, he should have just driven over here, driven straight into you, and killed you. Like, there didn't need to be anything else. And that's you have to understand when you have an advantage and when you have a disadvantage. And when you have an advantage, you have to crush. And when you have a disadvantage, you have to try to create some space where you can make get some free damage as he comes in. Because if you don't have that space, if you don't have that buffer, then he's just there's no reason why he can't just pick away at you. Okay, so if we look at stats, yeah, neither team did exceptionally well. This 4502B wasn't very good, and he had the stock turret, but he still blocked 10k damage in a tier 9 game. That's how much your team struggled with him. And that was a big reason why your team actually lost. But that'll happen. Not bad. You played pretty well, though. Just work on those late game situations, right? Just when you're identify 1v1, 2v2, 2v1, 1v2, right? Identify the situation that you're in and try to eliminate as many of the bad outcomes as possible. Try not to get yourself, in a 1v2, 1v3. Try to keep your enemies in front of you when you can. Don't allow them to get around to your flanks. When you have ISO'd enemies, make sure that you crush them. GG though. Nice try. Alright, so next is Outlaws T50 on Murovanka. Alrighty, top tier, one big arty. They've got tank destroyers. You've got more speed. The heavies are about the same. So I usually, especially from this north side, I usually get set up here, and as I'm driving there, I'll watch and see what the light tank does. So if the light tank spots through here, I'll be ready to get shots down here. What you don't want to do is play this west side. This west side is very, very alley-like. And against a lot of tank destroyers, right? Those tank destroyers are going to be camped back here. So you don't want to play that in your mediums. See where this type is going? He's going down the middle-ish, like he might get spots. So you want to be ready. You want to be set up. And the best place to be is like right on this little bump right here. Because it actually protects you if they send a scout here, that you don't get lit by him, or it's not easy for him to light you. So it's like right here. Like, see where this tree is right here? Like, you want to be right there. And then when this guy gets spots, he didn't quite go far enough. It doesn't look like. But if this guy gets spots, right, you can get shots along these guys, all in this area here, unless they go onto this back ditch. And if they go into the back ditch, that's what you want. Because that means that it's going to take them longer to get over here. And then once you control the center lane, then that gives you certain advantages. Doesn't look like they sent much this way. I mean, presuming that your type is actually spotting. Or if they did, right, they're all going to be down on this low ground, which is fine. So if you take this area like you have, like this is the same thing on like Redshire, right? The zero line on Redshire. It's an interesting place to play, but once you win this area, what you should do is you should cut back through this middle, right? Use the cover of these houses to get back and shrink their map control. What you don't want to do necessarily is push down over here through this big open area where you have to cross this big open field here, right? And then now they get a lot of free shots on you. So you want to avoid doing that. So you want to come back through this area if they didn't send anybody out here. And you don't want to spend too much time here. You guys are doing a good job of pushing forward in terms of being aggressive, but this is not the right play. Like, pushing out here is not the right play. Pushing back through here and preventing them from crushing your guys in the middle is probably the smarter play. Because right now, their team does not have a lot of map control. But, right, they don't need a lot of map control, because if they kill your guys right here while you guys are doing nothing, then there's not a whole lot that you can do about that. And so you have some guys here, like this IS-3 will get shots here, right? So these guys are in a little bit of a crossfire now, but just from one single IS-3. Your 30's coming that way, so hopefully he'll be able to do something. But I mean, it's 2 minutes into the game, haven't fired a single shot, right? And part of that is because their team wasn't here. But, you can't allow that time gap to go through where so much of your team dies before you actually, are able to do anything. I just push the arty if you can. You need to try to take them out. Because they still have very, very shrunk map control. But you guys, see how everybody's late to the party, right? The only guys that are on time to the party are the guys that were already here, right? The guys that were pre-partying. And these guys right here, right? These are the only guys that are actually involved in this game so far, right? All of these guys down here, right? This is half of your team. Still is driving to someplace where they can be useful, right? And these guys now, like if you look at the guys that are on the vanguard over here, right? These guys are untouchable by any of your team. You still got most of your team alive here, but they're just not in the game. And that's why you got to cut that off. You got to make sure that they can't. And, every single game that we've watched today is the exact same thing. The teams are all moving clockwise. Teams are all moving clockwise. And nobody ever thinks, all right, we got to cut this off, right? The 43 in the face is like, ah! Yeah, you need to start getting stuff down. See how they're starting to come back? So now it's important to be underneath here, right? Because then they have to drive over in order to kill you. You have shots on that Tiger P. You should. You have shots on that T30. You want to kill the front guys as much as you can, right? Because those are the guys that are spotting your team. Because your team's going to run into the same problem. And then this is the exact same thing. Like, these guys right here are now vulnerable. So these guys right here need to be in a position where these guys can't come around on top of them. You should be able to kill this T30. You need to focus on killing this T30. You guys are getting pincered there. So you need to actually push down over here to try to get to these guys. Like, all these guys need to. Like, these guys, so again, it's all about the threat. What is the threat to your team, right? The threat to your team, right? Your platoon mate and your IS-3, they're going to die. They are going to die. These guys aren't going to kill them. What do these guys have shots on? Nothing. What does this IS-3 have shots on? Nothing really. I mean, you can argue that this IS-3 is holding this corner. But right now, all of your forces, every single one of your tanks, should be thinking, how do I keep these guys alive? How can I possibly keep these guys alive? And it's not by dealing damage to these guys over here, because these guys are inconsequential to what's about to happen to your team. And you need to try to keep those guys alive. Like, shooting the backline guys, like, it's the same thing. Like, I see it a lot where, you know, like, artillery would shoot the AFK guy. It's like, he's AFK. You can shoot him later. Shoot anybody else. Lol. 2 ammo racks, 1 game. Wasn't that, oh no, it's 2 fires in 1 game. Was one of the missions. Okay, so it's the same thing here, right? So you guys actually have them in a good position, right? So they've got 3 tanks here. The CaptainKremen might be still coming around here. You've got 3 tanks here, right? This guy's way too far. You've still got your artillery active. And so all you have to do is just get around over here, right? Ignore these guys over here, right? Ignore these tier 9s, because those guys aren't affecting the game. What you want to do is, see this little pocket right here. This is the next pocket that's going to get crushed, right? This is the first pocket that got crushed right here. That, okay, that's fine. Like, it's acceptable for that, because you guys pushed over here. You didn't mean anything. You weren't going to have time to save those guys, right? That's not on you, right? But these guys that died right here, that's on you, right? You got to be able to keep your teammates alive there, especially when they're your platoon mates. And it's the same thing. This is the third pocket right here that's about to get crushed. And you're not in any position to help them, right? It's not these guys, this Patton and this Waffle. They're not what's killing your team right now. What's killing your team is these guys that are just literally just driving willy-nilly through your defenses, or your whatever, through your tanks, let's say. And it's the same thing. It's like, why chase this guy down? Get into a position where you can help your guy. I don't know why your guy's driving out there right now, but... Well, then now you might as well kill the Waffle. Because, I mean... And so right now your 30 should be running away this way. Push forward, push forward. There's a third ammo rack on an IS-3? Come on. Oh, okay. You need to just take your time with those shots. You can't save him now. You cannot save him now. You cannot save him now. Now is not the time. Now is too late. Take the IS-3 out. Clear the edge so that you can get out. So the patent carrier finally came through that guy. Well, that's fine. You should be able to... Their IS-3 and the Waffle are one-shot. You should be able to take them out from either side. You can do it from this side, or you can do it from the south side over here. No, shoot him above, just above the mantlet. And you can play these bushes here if you want, right? You have better camo than him. And again, this is this exact same situation as the previous games. Distance is your friend. You need to catch them coming across a distance. The Waffle is one shot, so that's good. But you want to catch this patent KR coming across an open area. And then drive away. You shouldn't be driving towards the patent carrier. You should be driving away right now because you're reloading. Because this is not to your advantage. When you're not loaded, trying to fight this guy. And again, distance is your friend. I'm gonna guess no. Alright, so anyways, a number of things. I'll play it in regular speed. So you actually had many chances to win that game. So they didn't send anybody to the east, which is fine. And so they crushed that pocket there, which is okay. And 3 or 4 guys came through this middle, which is the right play, because these guys were still alive at the time, and so you were going to get free damage here. Too much of your team was out of the game for too long, right? And you cannot be that inactive that early on. And then again, I think the biggest problem that I had with this game was target prioritization. That patent and that Waffle 4, I mean, that was just... Those guys weren't hurting you. Those guys weren't hurting your team. They weren't pinning anybody in. They weren't damaging anybody. Really, in the time that you spent, that you wasted on them, the rest of your team ended up getting crushed. And then what you really needed to do was to focus that last IS-3 down. Make sure that you get that IS-3 down. At that point, you weren't going to be able to save your buddy, right? It's too late. If you wanted to save him, you could have saved him earlier. Or you needed to try to save him earlier. But at that point, what you needed to do was clear that IS-3. Why? Because if you clear that IS-3, then that gives you an exit route, right? Because you need to have that distance. And then their Waffle sat there, which, okay, fine, that works. So you're able to kill him. And then what you needed to do, you hit the reload. And as soon as you hit the reload button, you got to think, I'm not going to be loaded for like 20 seconds here, right? What am I going to do? And you need to not be close to anybody, right? Again, distance is your friend. You need to have a gap, right? And this is something that we talked about a lot tonight. You want to have a gap. Like, you could have sat back here, you know, in any of these bushes and spotted that patent KR coming down here. Got a clip out for free, and then run away, and then reclipped him at any point, right? So you want to have some sort of distance, because that's to your advantage. What you don't want is for him to come around a corner and you to come around a corner at the same time and be like, oh, well, okay, I'm kind of screwed. You want to create that gap, that distance between you, and especially in a fast tank like the T50, you have the opportunity to do that. You have the speed to basically force him to pursue you, and just own him on the way in. All right, so that game's still going, but let's presume that you're gonna lose, because that's what it says in the in the stats. And so we'll take a look at this. You didn't get a lot out of your team, but really their team didn't play that much better either. Yeah, your platoon did well. That's good news. Unfortunately, they were all ISO'd, right? One of your, I don't remember which one of the AMXs was. One of them was ISO'd on that DE line, right? and then the next one got ISO'd a little bit later, and then you were the last ISO. You want to try to work together as a team a little bit more, I think. And that's not necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has to be in the exact same position or the exact same place. A lot of it is just, make sure that you can cover each other. If some guy goes, hey, I'm going to push across the middle to try to help our team, the next guy should be like, okay, well, all right, I'll be in a position where if you get pushed, then I can cover you. Overall, not bad though. Pretty good shooting. Nice ammo racks. Gotta love the ammo racks. GG's. Nice try.